Today was day one of ACR, Saturday, and I was able to attend 3 different sessions today. The first one was our pathway session, and it was so amazing, such a great turnout, and all of the speakers did such a great job, and I'm so excited to see the future of the pathway. The second session that I went to was about oral dryness and the detection, prevention, and treatment of it. And they suggested a lot of different things about chewing sugar-free gum to make sure to stimulate saliva to help with the oral dryness, and also using different sprays and different toothpastes that are also meant to help with saliva production. And they also talked about how Sjogren's patients end up having to do a lot of dental work, getting a lot of root canals and crowns. And they said that implants are actually a better investment, and they are less likely to fail compared to root canals and crowns. So in the future, you will end up paying less for dental work. And so that's what I learned from that session. And the last session that I went to was about phenotypes and different genetic markers with lupus nephritis, and basically being able to see what kind of medication that patients would need based off of their biomarkers. And it also talked about different lupus nephritis studies, and basically adding different therapies on top of mycophenolate or Cellcept to ensure delay of flare. So yeah, that was what I learned today.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for going with us. So one of the things that we promised we were going to do before we left the conference hall, we were going to do videos. So I know that Lindsay and Deb still have to do theirs, but they need to look at their notes, and it's a little harder for them. So they're over here watching. Hi. Okay, so all I was able to do is go to one session today because we had so many meetings, and we did our amazing presentation this morning. So I am actually just going to give a little bit of a tidbit of what I went to in the one session, and it was on uveitis, a lot of uveitis, but it was called Rheumatology Pearls. And the reason I wanted to go, because it was little unique pearls of wisdom that rheumatologists were giving to help with expediting diagnosis. And so they talked a lot about how uveitis and scleritis and different diseases and conditions of the eyes can lead to helping differentiate and help with the diagnosis and what things could be. So it didn't have a lot of science to it. It was more about detection and myths and things that might be thought of, and that rheumatologists should know these are just myths. So one of them, for example, was that rheumatology, RA, always is symmetrical. And I think we've always known that as patients, that just because you start off with joint disease on one side of your body does not mean necessarily it's not going to ever mirror. So often misdiagnosis will happen because a doctor will rule out rheumatoid arthritis because they'll say, well, it didn't mirror on the other side. There was another one that was a myth that patients go into very strong remission during pregnancy, and I know a lot of you have gone into remission, and some haven't. And the statistics actually showed that it was only a small percentage. I don't have my notes in front of me. I want to say between 20 and 40%. It was lower that actually did achieve remission, and more people flared than didn't. So it was interesting in that sense. And I think what we're going to do is put some polls out there to showcase what we learned and what these myths are, and kind of get some feedback from you on how that relates. The other thing, going back to uveitis, is it talked a little bit about how you could potentially zero in more on a diagnosis of sarcoidosis or of IgG4, which is a newer rheumatology condition that we're actually going to be doing a little bit of work here in 2023. And they also talked about how spondyloarthritis, the non-radiographic version, which is what I have, and then the spondyloarthritis, the AS, which had the radiographic damage in that spectrum, that they used to say uveitis was an initial condition or comorbidity that they would lead to a diagnosis, but the worst cases were typically HLA-B27, the gene that's often associated with spondyloarthritis, that was the indicator. But here's the thing, now that we've got non-radiographic, which is more prevalent, people like myself are not HLA-B27 positive, we're negative, that's sort of skewing that whole definitive diagnosis based on uveitis and the gene when you have a whole spectrum of the spondylitis group people who actually don't have that gene, which is all leading back to why precision medicine is important and why we need to understand subgroups. And there you go. There's my update. So we're getting ready to head back to the apartment, freshen up, and then head out to the Arthritis Foundation social that we were all invited to. So we're excited, and we'll probably report back a little bit there too. All right, that's it.
Hi everybody. We are at the ACR. We're actually currently at a reception that is hosted by the Arthritis Foundation and CARA. And we wanted to quick do a summary. So I'm Deb Constein, a longtime volunteer.
And I'm Lindsay Viscara, the Public Policy Manager.
And we want to kind of tell you about our day. Today is Saturday, and we've had a long, busy day already. I'll quickly tell you a little bit about my day. So I started at a session, and it was fairly quick. I only got to be about 15 minutes before I had to go to a pharma meeting with Lindsay. And it was called Food for Thought, and there was so much. There were two separate sessions within the one, and it was really interesting. That's a word you're going to hear over and over from all of us. I got to find a different word for that. But it was, the first section was very related to diet, the Mediterranean diet, what causes inflammatory within different kinds of food, and she did a really, really good, thorough job. And then I ran off to the pharma meeting, and then the full session I did see was called Difficult to Treat RA. And that was broken into 3 different sessions. And the first one was a clinician talking about difficult to treat RA. The middle one was basically all about the micronutrients and micromolecules, so very scientific. And the third session was about research that's necessary and new coming drugs that are coming down the pipeline for difficult to treat RA. So again, so much good information. I've done some tweeting. It is in our group chat already, the tweets that I did share about some slides for you to go look at, which I'd love you to go do. And we quickly hadn't eaten all day, so we quickly went and grabbed a dinner out at grabbing some fried rice in Chinatown, which is where we're at. So Lindsay, take it away.
So I mostly did pharma meetings today because that's my purpose, doing public policy, but I did get to go to a session about chronic, recurrent, multifocal osteomyelitis, which my oldest kid has. It was super sciencey. It was about the diagnostic criteria, but it was super interesting, and I was only in there for about 15 minutes. But I did get to do most of a session on reproductive health in teenagers with rheumatic disease, and it was super interesting. They talked about how most kids stop seeing their pediatrician by the time they're teenagers, and so the rheumatologists tend to give the information about their reproductive health, which is super complicated in people who are on our drugs. So it was pretty interesting, and I want to go back and listen to the second half that I didn't get to listen to.
Kind of like I want to go back and do the Food for Thought in full, and
Right.
again, the
Take
ones
better
that, yeah,
notes.
exactly, 100%. But it was a very informative day, and we also had another pharma meeting in there that was related to biosimilars. So that was actually really exciting as well. And great content, great conversations, and things are happening.
They are indeed.
So, okay,
All
so
right.
we are tuning out for today on Saturday because we are beat,
We're done.
and we've got another 8 o'clock in the morning session early in the morning that we want to hit. So
Yep.
we're going to be tuning out soon.
We'll
So
see you tomorrow.
thanks.